everybody. Welcome on back to Fantasy Football Futures. I am Tyler. This is Tim.
What's up?
Today on our episode, we will be talking about the Sunday preview, Sunday starts, Sunday fades, and then who we think some sleepers will be for this upcoming weekend. First weekend of NFL football, big exciting weekend. We just finished up the Cowboys versus Bucks.
Great game.
Was a great game. Had some wrong predictions, but some right predictions.
Yeah, we both went 500. Did you go through? Actually, you went 3-1.
I went 3-1 this week.
Yeah, I went 3-3. Yeah, Zeke just not doing anything definitely hurt, but also had just a great game altogether.
Antonio Brown playing big like we expected him to do. Chris Godwin played a lot better than I thought he would. I thought Mike Evans would be what Godwin did, but Gronk getting 2 touchdowns was huge for everybody who has him as a tight end slot. But CD and Amari, I think, kind of showed what they're going to do all year when Dak throwing the ball, 50-plus times. So, bright future looking forward with those. With the Cowboys and then as well with the Bucks. Cowboys defense looked a lot better tonight too. They forced 4 turnovers. One was a Hail Mary attempt, so I wouldn't really. It's kind of a bogus turnover for Tom Brady, but the Bucks easily could have ran away with it. But yeah, great game. Cowboys looked good. Offense looks really good.
Yeah,
kind of what we expect. Throw a lot of balls.
Great.
Yeah.
Zeke's going to bounce back. Don't worry about that. If you're trying to get him, look for maybe those people that have them that are already scared about it. Maybe try to get a trade, get less for him, but Zeke's going to be fine.
Yeah, they play one of the weakest divisions, so I think they'll be fine. It's just playing with you're playing a really good Tampa Bay front 7.
Yep.
Their linebackers are probably some of the best I've ever seen. They fly the ball like crazy. But so Thursday night football, 3-1. Would you go 2-2?
3-3.
3-3. So that works good for our betting this week. Overall, we had some right predictions with the game as well, but let's move on to some of the news that has happened around the league earlier. Today, actually, we're filming this on Thursday, September 9th. Big news broke out of the Ravens camp with Gus Edwards going down with a torn ACL.
Yeah, 2 actually people torn ACL. They have Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters. That makes 3 top players for the Ravens losing to ACL.
Yeah.
It's tough. If you're a Ravens fan, I'm sorry if you drafted Gus Edwards. That's terrible. Just a lot of question marks for the Ravens now, what they're going to do.
That's why you got Tyson Williams. Trenton Cannon is also there, but they did just sign Le'Veon, who now they brought up to the active roster for the game on Sunday, but it's at the question is how much does he know? And then they also signed Devonta Freeman
to the practice squad.
And then they're in talks with Latavius Murray right now. So I'm interested to see how that backfield dynamic's going to work, if they're going to keep all 3, who they're going to get rid of, and what they're going to do with them. Because I feel like Bell, Murray, and Freeman are just, I don't know. You can't keep all 3. You're going to have to do something.
No, I think Murray might be the best running back, but I just don't know which one fits their system the best.
Yeah.
I just feel like that just. I just don't know what to do, who you would bring in. I'm not loving the talent. So I'm also looking, if you're in the betting, looking for those Lamar Jackson. I think at DraftKings it's set at 7.5 rushing touchdowns. I'm taking that over now because I think there's not going to be consistent running back there.
No.
It's going to be getting the ball to Lamar a lot.
And that's what. So definitely keep an eye out for those 3. I'm interested to see what they're going to look like. Another thing that came out the other day was Eckler sat out of practice Wednesday with a lingering
and also
hamstring.
Today. And
today he sat out today as well. So yeah, what do you take on that?
I'm looking for fantasy wise, looking at Josh Jackson. I picked him up in one of the leagues. I think he'll play. I think it's more cautionary. It's week 1. You don't want to push anything.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to be sitting there. But week 1, I don't see any reason why. Not right now, at least, why he won't be starting week 1.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Eckler he'll be out there. Now it's something to watch in the game, how much reps some of his reps that he's supposed to get might be taken away. And I think Justin Jackson's the best.
I said Josh, yeah. Right, Justin.
Justin Jackson's the best option for them. Joshua Kelly, he's okay, but I think Justin Jackson gives them more. He's more explosive as a runner, and he can catch the ball better.
And also, that Redskins defense is great up front, so maybe not giving Eckler all the touches that you're used to or you want to give him might be kind
especially
of beneficial
running the ball.
for him.
Yeah, so more stuff work out of the backfield as a receiver. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to play. I think, like you said, it's more a precautionary thing. So we got to really see what they do tomorrow, because if he's limited, then he's playing. But if he's not practicing, then there's a good chance he's not playing Saturday.
Worried,
yeah. And then the last thing that I can have, so Latavius Murray, he was released because he wouldn't take a pay cut.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Jones Jr. now is in that role. I think he's one that you can pick up that might be able to do a little bit more than what Murray did, because I think Tony Jones Jr. is a better pass catcher than Latavius. So that's big news out of New Orleans for everybody with Kamara. If you want to go get your handcuff, go find Tony Jones Jr. I think he'll fit into that system well, and they seem to really like him undrafted. So, and then the last thing we have is Carson Wentz officially healthy and starting week 1.
Yep, I'm happy for that. Been big on Michael Pittman. Very happy for him. You like Campbell. Teres Campbell. Having that number 1 quarterback out there that you're going to want throughout the whole season in Carson Wentz. I think it's going to be fun to watch. Again, him against that Seahawks defense that isn't very good against the pass. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, so that's what it's going to be interesting to see. I really like Carson Wentz being back. I think that brings a new dynamic to the Colts offense. And I'm interested to see what they're going to look like this year. With Frank Reich getting back together with Carson Wentz, I'm curious to see how they're going to grow back and see if Carson can get back to what he did in 2018, I think it was. So big hopes for them. And then the wide receiver core, especially with T.Y. being out, I think you're going to see a lot of work with Pittman, Campbell, and then Pascal as well. So news-wise, that's all I have. Is there anything that we missed that you remember?
No, nothing. There's a lot of people that maybe were started practicing, but nothing that really stuck out.
No, I think most people who weren't practicing the other day stepped back in or limited at least today. So with that, we will move into our Sunday game selection show. So we're going to do stardoms here to start. And this is no particular order, no players and positions or anything. This is just who we think who you should start this week, and this isn't like the normal like CMC or Dalvin Cook, guys like that. These are more guys that we think that you're in between, like maybe I won't play them, maybe I will, and we think that this week is a week they should be implemented into the lineup, and we think they'll be successful for you. So we'll go ahead and go with our top 5 starts. We both have different lists. We might have some similarities, but with my first top 5 start, this might not come to surprise you, because I'm pretty big on him this year, is Corey Davis with the Jets. They're playing Carolina, who I think that defense it's solid, but they're still young. The secondary is not great. It's okay. I just think he's going to get so much target share with Zach Wilson being the number 1 receiver. Elijah Moore's kind of been in and out of the lineup all preseason, so I just think Zach Wilson's going to rely on him a lot, and I think Corey Davis will get a large amount of targets, and then he will get fair receptions, and I think he's going to be targeted in the red zone as well. So I really like Corey Davis this week, especially against the Carolina's defense, who it's kind of middle of the pack. It's not great. It's not terrible, but I think he's going to try to showcase why he was signed to be the number 1 receiver in the league.
Yep, so all preseason, Wilson just really relied on Corey Davis. Definitely got him his targets. Even in preseason, you're not playing the full game, but he was getting 6-7 targets
in
from
the first quarter. Yeah,
and I think that it's going to be Zach Wilson's first game. It's a very young team, so you need someone to look for that's a leader, and Corey Davis is that leader that's been in the league. So I think it's just going to go just from preseason to regular season. He's just going to be targeting Corey Davis. I can see at least double-digit targets for him.
That's what I'm thinking 10 or more.
Yeah, and that running game is very questionable right now. I was big on Michael Carter, and it just seems like they're kind of jumping back and forth. They're not really know who their starter is.
I think it's going to be a 3-way thing.
I think that's what it is.
Hot hands going to get the
And I think the Panthers are going to score a lot of points against that bad Jets defense. So how to keep up, you got to pass the ball, and I think Corey Davis will be in there a lot.
That's why I think so. And I think Zach Wilson, I don't combination. I think Zach Wilson will be very comfortable in his first start, a lot more comfortable than we think he will be. I think he's still going to make the rookie mistakes, but I think he's going to be pretty composed. From what I've watched in preseason, he doesn't really look like the big moment scares him right now, which is good, especially out of a guy you drafted number 2. And I wasn't high on Zach Wilson coming out of college, so he's really changed how I viewed him, and I think he'll be a very good quarterback, and I like the combination with him and Davis.
Yeah, a lot of people are big on Zach Wilson now after watching him. Everyone's kind of understanding why he was number 2 overall.
Yeah, it's just something you didn't see at BYU, small school and everything. So that was my number 1. Who do you have?
So I went, this is kind of a duh 1-2 because for their tight ends, but actually I went with Mark Andrews, and I wanted a point to start him, especially because of what's going on with the Ravens, losing the running game. You don't have Bateman out there. Marquise Brown is not something reliable. So Lamar Jackson is going to need that blanket to go on, or someone to throw to. And I think Mark Andrews is a good start, but he's not even a good start. He's a great start, and even he will be a top 5 tight end this week for sure.
And that's what they just gave him, a huge contract extension, so they want to get him the ball, and I think he's a great option, especially at tight end, because like you said, with Gus Edwards going out in the backfield being a mess, they really don't have anybody to throw to. I think they're going to rely heavily on Andrews when they're in the passing game, especially down in the red zone, because you're not going to want to have Lamar take a bunch of hits consistently over and over again. Mm-hmm. So I like Mark Andrews, especially this week with all the news that just broke today.
I think he'll have a game like tonight with the how Gronk did. I think that two touchdowns can really is something I see Mark Andrews doing. Not even this week, but a lot of times against bad defenses that Lamar Jackson just needs to throw the ball or get it out of his hands. Mark Andrews is going to be that guy for him.
Yeah, especially playing a Raiders defense who isn't as solid against pass. So I agree. I like Mark Andrews. Who do you have at number 2 for
Number 2, I went to the opposite side of the Jets. I went Robbie Anderson. The opposite side of the Jets, I went Robbie Anderson with the Panthers.
Oh, I was like, on the opposite side of the field. I was very confused. Okay, yeah, Robbie Anderson with the Panthers.
Yep. Sorry, because you're talking about the Jets. My bad. But anyway, so they actually, the best defensive back they had last year, he was cut. So they have a very young defense. Cornerbacks are just getting their first start, and so I think the Panthers are going to really take advantage of that. Going to throw the ball a lot, and Robbie Anderson's going to be that very consistent wide receiver for them. DJ Moore might get maybe that touchdown or 2, but I think Robbie Anderson gets that 8-9 receptions. Even with the Jets last year, they gave the 6th most fantasy points to wideouts, and I don't see that changing. If it changes, it goes up, being in the top 5. So I think Anderson and even DJ Moore, who's kind of like a dust start. So I think that's why I go with Robbie Anderson. He should be in your flex, maybe even your wide receiver 2 this week.
That's what. Yeah, I feel like the Panthers have shown they want Robbie Anderson to be the number 2, or even kind of get a lot of the target share, because they just extended him this offseason as well. So Robbie Anderson, I think, is definitely, you're going to plug him and play pretty much every week at flex for sure, because of his explosion that he had last year, and I think you're going to see that go up. I think with Darnold, you're going to see them throw the ball a lot more, but between Robert Anderson and then Teres Marshall, I think you're going to see a lot more passing game. They feel more reliable with those 3. And I think it's going to be a great fit for him. So I do like Robbie Anderson there, and I kind of have like a mixture kind of guy with you, like you do, with T. Higgins as my second player to must start. And this is just because they're playing the Vikings, and I think T. Higgins is just the best receiver on that team. I know you got Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase that you got to worry about there, but I think T. Higgins is a slot guy, provides a lot more opportunity to have a breakout game than like Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase. And I think T. Higgins will just show that he was one of Burrow's favorite targets at the end of the year, and it's his second year, so he's only going to go up. So I like T. Higgins a lot. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more. I think people aren't giving enough respect to the Vikings, and I think this game's going to be a bigger point margin in the Vikings' favor. So I think T. Higgins and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have to throw the ball a lot to try to keep up, and I could see him getting a lot of that target share and working up the field and bringing in a touchdown too. I think he's the best receiver and the best option for Joe Burrow.
Yep, and Joe Burrow needs to be able to get back to what he kind of was doing last season. Hopefully that offensive line can protect him a little bit more. But you just want to have the consistency, someone you can rely on. T. Higgins is that best wide receiver. Jamar Chase, I don't know what's going on with him. He's saying the ball is hard to see in the NFL.
Yeah, because the white's not on there anymore.
I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if he's just making an excuse or if he's really having no trouble. And I do like Tyler Boyd, but I just don't see the big upside with him. I think with Higgins, you can get really big upside, and I love that start. That Vikings defense last year was not good. They gave up a lot of points. Yeah. And I do see them being a better team this year, but there might be a little bit of struggles, especially at the beginning of the season. So I think T. Higgins is a very consistent player that you're going to get this week, and he shouldn't be on your bench.
Yeah, and that's what I just feel like he's the best opportunity for that team. And when it comes down to it, you want to play sometimes the best option on a team, and just hope that he gets what he should. So that's what my play with is T. Higgins there. My third guy that I have here, he is a tight end like Mark Andrews, and that's T.J. Hawkinson. I know some people have kind of been 50-50 with T.J. Hawkinson this year just because of who he plays for.
Yep.
But I think that's why you need to go all in on him this week and pretty much every week. He doesn't have anybody else to kind of take those targets away. Like Armand St. Brown is like the best option for golf. Yeah. And I just think Hawkinson was 100 reception guy last year, or 100 target guy last year. I think that only goes up this year. Jared Goff is going to realize that's the only weapon he has, and it's Hawkinson's third or fourth year, and I just see him only continuing to grow. So I like him a lot in this game. I think playing with the 49ers, their team's not good. 49ers offense is going to put up a lot of points. I think if the Lions want any chance, they're going to have to throw the ball, and what Goff's going to have to do is take advantage of his mismatches on the inside with linebackers with Hawkinson. So I love T.J. Hawkinson here, and I think he's a must-start at tight end for
and I think why people were 50-50 on him, because everyone, I think, thinks he's a good tight end, but where he was getting drafted out at in, I think the early 5th, even late 4th.
Sometimes
some people,
late 6th, yeah.
Yeah, even the 6th, and I think that was kind of a stretch for him because you're worried about getting that tight end. But when you really look at it, on that Lions team, he is their best receiver.
Yeah.
I know you have Brown, you have Tyrell Williams, but T.J. Hawkinson's he's been there, he's been on that team, and I think Jared Goff is going to be using him a lot, and especially in that red zone, he's a big target down there. You might see T.J. Hawkinson end up maybe around 10 touchdowns this year, just getting those late-time touchdowns because the Lions are trying to come back. They're throwing the ball a lot, and so I really do like that start there. And that he might be a lot of must-starts each week just because of that.
And that's why I think he's going to be he's a must-start every week for me, just for the whole point that he's their best receiver. Mm-hmm. So.
And so with my number 3, I'm actually going to quarterback here. I'm going Jalen Hurts again for the Eagles against the Falcons. I know there's been a lot of questions with the Eagles. Was Jalen Hurts, was he going to start? That was a question halfway through preseason.
They still don't want him to be a starter.
No,
he's a starter.
They don't, but I believe in Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's going to be a great quarterback in this league, but he's playing against the Falcons, who actually gave up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks last season. The Falcons are in a rebuild right now, trying to maybe get that defense a little bit better, and Jalen Hurts having that combo of pass and run as well. I think it could set him up for having a great week when not a lot of people are expecting much from the Eagles.
Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts a lot. I think he's more than an average quarterback in the NFL. He can run, he can throw, and I think if you just give him a team and a coach who kind of believes in that, I think he can be very capable of being a solid quarterback for 8 years or so. Mm-hmm. I do like him against the Atlanta Falcons. Like you said, Atlanta's defense is just bad. They were bad last year, and losing Dan Quinn, defensive guy. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see how that's going to look. New coach coming in and everything. So I don't know. I don't think a whole lot can change over a year. They didn't bring in a lot of people. They didn't draft like big name guys. So I think, like I said, Jalen Hurts can have a big year, and I think Devonta Smith with him helping him outside will be huge. So I also like Jalen Hurts there.
Yeah, and so I don't know. He's actually projected to be a top 10 quarterback in this weekend. A lot of leagues I'm in, and he's someone you actually can pick up. He could have been even a sleeper if he really wanted to. But I think he's definitely your one good look out there each week because of that run, because of that pass. Yeah. And it really could get you a top 10 quarterback each week.
Yeah, the run-pass combo for quarterbacks changes everything. Mm-hmm. So if you can get 6 points on a touchdown run and then 4 on a pass, I would take that in a second. So number 4 for me is kind of a team. It's not just one guy. It's kind of like a trio of people. And it's all Steelers wide receivers this week. Just because the Bills' defense is not great against the pass, I think you need to insert any of those guys. The secondary is not great. They don't have a great pass rush. You can't really get after the quarterback. And I think they're going to have to keep up because the Bills' offense is so good. With Josh Allen and Stefan Diggs and the Matty and Emmanuel Sanders, I feel like they're going to score almost at will. I know the Steelers' defense is really good, but it's going to be tough to stop Josh Allen and the Bills. And I think the matchup with Johnson, Claypool, and Juju, I think they'll all be able to find it throughout the game. And I think Big Ben's going to have to throw the ball 35-plus times just to be in this game. So I like all three of them. Look for them against a weak pass defensive team. And those would be my, it's not just one. If you have one of them, I'd say I would start them this week.
Yeah, so I really like that. I think it will be a shootout. I'm taking that over I think it's at 54 it was, and I think it's really going to be a great shootout.
48 and a half.
48 and a half? I thought it was, okay, never mind. Yeah, I'm definitely taking that over. I think Naji Harris, he's going to be a great running back. I think they might not go 100% with him all the time. And a Big Ben last year, he's getting older, but he loved those Deontay Johnson, Claypool and everything. Yeah. They're not deep throws, just getting them in the open and just letting them do their thing, short passes. And I can see that happening against a bad Bills, not bad, but weak Bills
secondary.
Back.
Yeah.
Secondary, yeah.
Who do you have at number 4 then?
So number 4, I went James Robinson. I think a lot of people haven't seen a whole lot about it since Etienne got hurt. He didn't jump a whole lot in drafting. I think he maybe went from 5th to 3rd round in some leagues. Yeah. But it's pretty much his backfield now again. He's just going to take over from what he did last year. And on top of that, he plays the Texans. And I think that's really the main thing. I'm looking at any running back, any quarterback, wide receiver against the Texans this year. I'm playing them. They're going to be my starts. You're doing daily fantasy, trying to look for them. Maybe get a low salary for a player that maybe doesn't have great weeks, but when it gets to Texans, could have that bust-out week. So
yeah, that's what I feel like. James Robinson, he's kind of just people I feel like are just waiting for him to prove that he can continue to do what he did last year. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest question mark with him, and I feel like you got Carlos Hyde there who might take some of the reps away, but why would you not give this guy another chance, especially against a team like the Texans who are so bad defensively? So I feel like he's going to have a great week. They're going to be run heavy, I feel like, this week.
And you need something to help Trevor Lawrence out, get him comfortable in there, being able to establish that run game. We'll just open up that passing game for him and just let him show why.
And that's what his first game might not. And what a better first game to go against than the Texans. So
a lot better to get confidence. Or I guess you look the opposite way. If they lose, then you're questioning yourself.
You're terrible. But yeah, I like James Robinson a lot. I think he'll show people that he can still insert himself into a solid RB2 kind of guy. And I think it'll just, and this week against the Texans, it's kind of take it or leave. It's if he does great, it's he's supposed to. It's against the Texans. But I think if he showcases that Urban Meyer and the Jaguars want to use him and get him a lot of touches, and I think that's a guy you can continue to put in RB2 and feel okay with that.
He'll be able to answer some of those questions this week, I think, of how they're going to use him.
Okay, so my next guy is actually a player for the Texans, and that's Brandon Cooks. And that's solely because outside of Brandon Cooks, they have Jordan Akins, tight end, and that's it to throw the ball to. And Tyrod Taylor's back there, and I feel like those two are going to build. They've already built a solid connection over the preseason with Deshaun being out. And we saw last year when Will Fuller was out, Brandon Cooks was that guy for them. He gets a large target share. He has a lot of receptions, and they put their offense through him. And really, without a solid running game, you got David Johnson, Philip Lindsay. back there, and then they have a third one. That's kind of a three-back rotation too. Mark Ingram, that's it. I just don't see how that run game's going to continue to, like, it's not going to carry them. So they're going to need one guy, and I think that's going to be Brandon Cooks, and I think he's one that you have to play even though he's on the Texans. Texans are going to be down a lot in a lot of games. So you need a guy that you can just throw the ball to, and that's Brandon Cooks, in my opinion, for the Texans.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit kind of like your T.J. Hawkinson of where he's going to be the best player in that on that offense. And Brandon Cooks says he's been in the league. Someone on that team needs to be a leader and just take over and just help push the Texans in the right direction because they are a mess right now. Deshaun Watson's really putting them in a hole.
Yeah.
And just honestly, it's not even his fault. It's just years of just doing stupid stuff for that team. So I really like that pick. I have him. I'm thinking about putting him in my flex just because of the target share, how many targets he'll get.
And you got to take a guy that's going to get a lot of targets.
I'm not
just hope for a lot.
He's not going for 200, 150 yards. You're not expecting that, but you can expect 8 to 10 catches, 60 yards for that guy, and that's 15.
And let's be honest, the Jaguars' defense isn't great.
No, so it's really not.
You kind of want to plug him in and play him because he could have a great game against a really bad team.
Yep.
So, that was my 5. Who was your 5th one?
My 5th one is Raheem Mostert for the 49ers against the Lions. I think the 49ers are going to be a run-first team, especially with Jimmy Graham starting. They did it last year.
Garoppolo.
Did I say Jimmy Graham?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Garoppolo. And just being the run-first team, they had Mostert, they had Tevin Coleman, they had, who was their third guy?
Last year?
Mm-hmm.
Wilson.
And Wilson, yeah. And they just had a 3-headed monster and ran with them. But I think Raheem Mostert kind of led the charge there. I think Raheem Mostert is going to start this season of being the number 1 back. I do think Trey Sermon will take over that backfield, but I think to start the season they're going Mostert, and again they're playing the Lions, very bad running defense team, and I think it's going to be a great start for him, and especially if you're trying to look for that second running back for your team.
That's why I feel like Raheem Mostert against Detroit, they're going to be a run first offense like you said this week. They don't really need to throw it. If they can run the ball like they normally do, they'll be fine. The only thing that worries me with Raheem Mostert, if they're going to do what they kind of did in the preseason, which is alternate series with the two of them, with Sermon and Mostert, I think that's probably what Shanahan's going to lean towards. And then if Sermon's more of the hot hand, is he going to ride it out? So that's my only knock against that one is the fact that I think Shanahan's just going to play them both, and they're going to kind of get even reps. And then he might eventually go just who's playing better and who looks better in the offense. So.
I think that's when Trey Sermon takes over. But I think the beginning of the season, Raheem Mostert, they want to start that run game, get it consistent. And I think Trey Sermon, they'll add more him. They'll start going back and forth. And when Trey Sermon shows, I do think Trey Sermon will be a better running back. I think when he shows that finally, that's when Trey Sermon works.
Yeah.
But in this first game, I really do think Raheem Mostert takes over.
Raheem Mostert, I feel like people kind of sleep on. He has had some injury issues, but he's been a solid RB for the 49ers the past 2 years. It's just his injuries which keep bringing him down. So my top 5 starts for this week is Courtney Davis with the Jets, T. Higgins with the Bengals, T.J. Hawkinson with the Lions. We have all 3 Steelers receivers against the Bills, and then Brandon Cooks against the Jaguars.
And then I have Mark Andrews with the Ravens, Robbie Anderson with the Panthers, Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, James Robinson with the Jaguars, and Raheem Mostert with the 49ers.
Perfect. Okay, so that was our top 5 starts. Now let's go ahead and go to the top 5 people we want to fade. Just for this week, my number 1 is going to be from the Detroit Lions. Running back Deandre Swift, and I'm fading him because they're facing a really strong 49ers defense, and he's coming off kind of an injury, and I just feel like they're not going to use him as much as they want to, and he doesn't bring a scary threat out of the backfield to catch the ball either. So I'm gonna fade him hard this week. They might not push him too much if the game gets out of control early, just because they don't want to ruin him for the rest of the year. And I just think he's going to struggle a lot against a really strong front seven with the 49ers. So I'm going to fade Swift this week because he really doesn't bring any value with catching, and he's facing a top 10 defense, in my opinion, this year.
Yep, I agree. I actually had Swift down at first. I did delete him just because of, like we said with the Lions, there's not much there. But at the same time, he does have Williams behind him that they can kind of lean on while Swift is trying to get healthy. You don't want to push him too much because you want to make sure that he stays healthy for the whole season.
Yeah. So it's one game compared to 17.
I can see that they're playing against a good run defense, and so I think Swift is a great pick to fade. If you have to play him, I know a lot of you will get him in the second, third round, so he might be your number one running back.
That's right. If you're gonna play him, then you just gotta trust and hope that he's their best running back. They're gonna feed him the ball,
and he stays on the field. So that's biggest question, but that's kind of why I stayed away from him, and why if I would have him, I would be sitting him as well.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. So who do you got at number one?
Number one, I went with Kenny Galladay out of the Giants. Kenny Galladay has always been a struggle with injuries, and he was hurt a lot of times for this preseason. Mm-hmm. He actually came back, I think, just the other day, yeah. And they're playing against a Broncos defense that's pretty good this year, that they're expected to be good. And I just think Kenny Galladay is not someone I want to rely on. I want to see kind of how Jones uses him. I'm looking more to playing Sterling Shepard, maybe.
That's how.
And he could be getting more of those targets from Kenny, because Kenny Galladay, I feel like more is a deep ball threat anyways. And I think just with the injury, it's just I'm always seeing him go off the field, and just a big question mark. And that's why I just fade him personally, maybe not even this week, but all weeks. I'm just not a Kenny Galladay guy.
So I have Kenny Galladay as well on my fade list this week, and I agree. The injury aspect of what he went through last year, he didn't play, and then you're already seeing it this year with the Giants that he's getting hurt and everything. I just don't trust him enough to stay on the field long enough to want to start him right away. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to hold off a little bit because you got him probably 6th, 7th, 8th, 5th.
Yeah, he's not your number one receiver. No.
And I just feel like he won't have a great connection with Daniel Jones. They haven't really done a whole lot together. He's kind of been out for most of the preseason. So I'm going to hold off on him this week and kind of maybe wait a week or two or three and just kind of see what he's looking like. And then that's when I can feel comfortable enough to insert him. Yeah, if it bites you in the butt, that's just a risk you got to take. But like you said, his injuries and really Sterling Shepard has been getting huge target shares. The last preseason game, Shepard had 10 targets in like 2 quarters. So I feel like that's just a connection Daniel Jones had last year. He's just going to continue to build on it. And with Barkley coming back, I'm curious to see what he's going to look like, because maybe they run the ball a lot against the Denver defense. Although Denver's front seven's really good at pass rushing, it's just their secondary is a little bit weaker, but I just feel like Daniel Jones is hard to trust as well. So
yeah, the Giants are just a big question mark. You don't know, will Daniel Jones take that next step of being a better quarterback?
Yeah.
Will Barkley be on the field a lot? Will he stay healthy? There's just a lot of question marks on that offense. And, you have Tony there. He might be getting more of those targets too, trying to get him in the open field. So I think there's a lot of question marks around Galladay. I would hold off this week. He plays the football team next week. Probably hold off on that, but then that's when he plays the Falcons. He has a little bit easier defenses after that, so you'll get to see how much he's used in these next 2 weeks.
So that's why it's just nice to see kind of what they're doing. So Swift, and then you went Galladay.
Yep.
And then I'm going to go with, I also had Galladay. So that would be my number 2. Who's your number 2?
I went with Josh Jacobs.
And that's who I have him as well. So
for the Raiders against the Ravens. I had Josh Jacobs last year. He actually did pretty well for me, and I was happy with most of his production. At the end, it kind of started to get a little questionable. And then this offseason, they went and got Kenyan Drake.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're going to be wanting more of those third downs to go to Kenyan Drake, be able to catch out of that backfield. And so there was a big question mark to Josh Jacobs. A lot of people are saying that he's going to be down this season. He's not going to do the production that he had last season. And on top of that, he's playing a good run defense. And so I'm just waiting a week. I want to see how much they're actually going to use Josh Jacobs. Is maybe Kenyan Drake, they see him a little bit. He he doesn't do what they want, and Josh Jacobs has a great week or two, then that's when I start wanting to play him more.
Yeah, that's why I feel like Josh Jacobs is going to be. I think he'll still be that 1-2 down back for them, and then they'll try to utilize Kenyan Drake a little bit more. But like you said, my whole reason of fading him this week is because they are playing that Baltimore defense, and Baltimore's defense against the run has always been phenomenal. So I would not want to try to run up against that guy like we saw tonight with Zeke against Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
It just they take it away, and I feel like the Ravens are going to take it away, and Vegas might have to attack some of the outside guys, especially with Marcus Peters going down. So I'm interested to see what their game plan is going to look like. But with Jacobs this week, I think he'll be able to continue. He won't be as good as he was last year, in my opinion, but he'll still be able to put up numbers, get some touchdowns. It's just, like you said, how much are they going to utilize Drake, and what's that offense going to look like? So this week, because of what he's playing the Ravens, and we don't know what Drake's going to look like, I would fade him very hard this week.
Yep, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Not starting him anywhere, and I just wait to see what happens.
Yeah. So I also had him as well. So at number 4, or you're at number 3.
I'm at number 3. I'm going with Chris Carson with the Seahawks. I've been on the Chris Carson train before, and it has not worked out for me ever. So this year I'm taking a different approach with him. I'm just not following him. I'm not starting him, and I actually didn't draft him in any of my leagues. But especially this week against the Colts, against a very good defense, and just an offense that you don't really know what's going to happen. They have a new offensive coordinator, Russell Wilson. They like to throw a ball a lot more, especially if they can't get that running back, they get that running game going, they just go away from it completely in the pass.
Yeah.
And so you have 2 really good wide receivers to go to. So this is why I'm just fading Chris Carson. I'm not starting him. More talk about Penny getting more playing time as well for them. He's healthy this year. So this week I'm just kind of I'm not starting him, especially against that Colts defense.
Yeah, and that's what I think. Colts defense is a lot better than people think. Leonard in the middle is really good. Like I said, their front seven's really talented too, and they'll be good against the run as well. The only thing that I'd say is Carson had, before his injury last year, he was top 5 running back, and I think that's solely because they can spread it out as much as they want with Russ, and that kind of opens lanes with Chris Carson. So to me, I think he's kind of, you can fade him, but I see, I would play him just solely because of how much Wilson can spread people out too. And that's what he can run, he can catch, and it's just really, like you said, if Penny plays a lot more, then it becomes a question mark each week with him. But for right now, based on what we saw kind of at the beginning of last year, barring any injuries, I think he won't be like a top 5 guy, but he can easily slide in top 10 and be top 15 kind of guy.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just starting off, just fading him, especially the Colts gave the second least amount of rushing yards last year. So something you just want to see how much they want to run. If maybe Russ, they don't run the ball, but they try to get Chris Carson hand more.
Yeah.
And that could be, but I'm waiting a week, and that's why he's made my fade list.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I'm going to move to another running back as well for me, number 4 with my list. It's going to be David Montgomery. And that's because, like we've already talked about before with Josh Jacobs, he's playing a really solid defense in the Rams. And I just think Andy Dalton might have a hard time throwing the ball around. Matt Nagy's not the smartest guy in the world, not the greatest play caller. So I think I'm going to fade David Montgomery because he's not real. They don't really throw the ball to him a whole lot. And he went off the last 5 weeks, but that was against bad defenses. And before that, he was running back 22. So really, it's just I'm going to fade him this week solely because he's playing the Rams, and you just don't know what Nagy's going to do with Andy Dalton back there.
Yeah, the last 5 weeks, a lot of people ride on that because he ended up being the running back number 4, but he was playing against terrible defenses, and that's not what he's playing against this week. The only reason why I question him putting on my fade list is just because of the consistency, what he'll be getting out of the backfield, you can see 20 to 25 carries to him. And if he breaks off one big run, that could make your whole game for you. Yeah. So I think it could be a question, but I definitely see why you would fade him. Before those 5 games, he was just an average running back, and playing against a very good defense will.
And you usually see a high jump in second-year players, so it really depends. But I just think because of who they're playing, it's a fade. Mm-hmm. Who do you have at number 4?
Number 4, I went with. This is kind of like how you did the Steelers wide receivers. I'm actually fading the Dolphins wide receivers. The Patriots gave up the 9th least passing yards last year, and that was with a defense that wasn't all there. Everyone is back. They're healthy. They're ready to go. And I think everyone's been talking about that Patriots offense of Damian Harris, Mac Jones, everything. But I think that defense is what's going to carry them this year. And then playing against the Dolphins wide receivers, Will Fuller's out, so that means you got Jalen Waddle, and you got Devontae Parker and Preston. I'm just staying away from them right now. I think the Patriots are going to have Tua Fitz, and it's going to be a tough game for him. I think what they actually rely on is Gaskin more and give him the ball a lot. So that's why I am baiting the Dolphins wide receiver.
And that's why I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about the Patriots defense and how much they are getting back this year. I think that's why they'll be able to contend in that division because of that defense, but and it's Tua unknown what he's going to be like in his second year. Bill Belichick loves young quarterbacks, so I see why you're fading them. Waddle, we don't know what it's going to look like, but I think if you want to counter argue that, they might have to throw the ball, and if they can't run the ball, they're going to have to try to throw the ball, move the ball with Tua, and I think Waddle might be a guy that they kind of like we talked about tonight. Quick out passes, quick screens. Just give him the ball and let maybe he can break a 20-yard, 30-plus yard touchdown run. So it's going to be tough for them this week, especially against the Patriots. But I would fade some of them, but certain guys, it's hard to pick on who you're going to fade this week with them. And I can see why you take all 3. But I like Gesicki, and I think Waddle might have big games solely because they're going to have to try to move the ball that way. But yeah. So that's your number 4. With 5 for me, it's DJ Chark. And I feel like a lot of people are still high on what he did 2-3 years ago. He just hasn't had any seasons like that. He hasn't been consistent enough for me, and I feel like he's kind of moved to the number 2 receiver on that team now behind Shenault.
Maybe even 3.
Yeah, so it's just like Keenan Cole. His targets have been higher in games that they've played together since last year, and I don't know. DJ Chark, yes, he's got Trevor Lawrence, and it's all what he did 3 years ago was amazing, but he's been injury prone. He just isn't putting up the same numbers, and I feel like if you pick them up, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a steal of a flex. I just don't think it will be. I think you're gonna see more James Robinson, Shenault, and Cole this week out of the Jaguars offense.
Yeah, and you also have Marvin Jones in there too, which is pretty much the same. He's almost the same wide receiver as Chark. They do the same thing.
But better, I think.
Them bringing those wide receivers in opened up everyone's eyes, thinking they don't trust Chark. They're not going to give him the ball that much. I think Shenault's definitely going to be that number 1. Trevor Lawrence has already been throwing him the ball more, and so I do like that. I do like that fade. He didn't make my list, but I 100% agree with that fade.
Perfect. Yeah, so that rounds out my 5. Who do you have as your 5th guy?
I went tight end Noah Fant with the Broncos. Noah Fant has been kind of had the injury bug his whole career almost.
So far, yeah.
And he actually just returned today from another injury. I think I'm not going to play Noah Fant in my tight end spot. I think there's maybe better matchups out there that you can get. You could have started Gronk. I would have liked that Gronk over Fant. Even if before knowing what Gronk was going to do. But he's also playing against the Giants, who actually were pretty good against tight ends last year in fantasy. So between the matchup, between the Bridgewater having Judy and Sutton back as well, taking those targets away from Noah Fant, you could see a couple of targets in the end zone, but I'm just baiting Noah Fant. I'm just not starting. I want to see what happens if he can stay healthy. At least that's the question.
That's right. Yeah, his injury proneness is what's the biggest thing. He's He's super athletic. He's very talented, and when he does play, he's really good. Mm-hmm. And I think this year, if you give him a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, you might see his value go up. But like you said, it's just the fact that injuries play so much into what he's done in the last 2 years. It's just hard to stick with him and hope that he can play a full game for you. So I like fading him is a great choice, but like counterpoint to that is you got Teddy Bridgewater. Let me see what Noah Fant can do. He's athletic tight end and could maybe fit into a system where he becomes a top 5 tight end. So, but I would agree with fading him solely because of his injuries. So, my top 5 fades are Swift with the Lions, Josh Jacobs with the Raiders, Galladay with the Giants, Montgomery with the Bears, and then Chark with the Jaguars.
And I have Kenny Galladay with the Giants, Josh Jacobs with the Raiders, Chris Carson with the Seahawks, Dolphins wide receivers, and Noah Fant with the Broncos.
Okay, so that was our top 5 fades, and now let's move to our kind of sleepers that we have. Some of these people might be on the waivers, or you maybe picked them up super late, or kind of in that 8th or later round.
Higher, yep.
So for me, my first one is a guy with I feel like a lot of people aren't really talking about. They kind of forgot him in college. Is Kadarius Toney, and that's because of how much I think they're going to utilize him as a little slot guy, and I think he's going to be able to fly around and be kind of like an Edelman, but faster. I don't know how his route running is. It wasn't great at Florida, but you get that guy. You get him the ball. It's like a quick screen. You just hope he turns the ball into like an 80-yard touchdown run. He's fast enough. He's a great athlete. I think from what I've read, the Giants want to utilize him a lot this year, and I think with Galladay being hurt, and then you got Slayton and Shepard, I think he's going to fit in great there and just kind of take over that role as the explosive guy that they try to get the ball to quickly, like 2-3 yard out routes or anything, just to see what he can do with the ball once he gets it in his hand.
It's exactly what the Rams wanted to do with Tavon Austin, but maybe the Giants will actually use it correctly this time.
So they're not going to line Tavon up in the backfield?
No, I'm making him run right up the middle. No, that's not going to happen. So, because they actually have a running back too.
Yeah.
But anyways, I agree 100%. I think we talked about Galladay with my fade. I think Toney could be that guy where exactly they're going to get him in the open field. Just let him make a play. Let him do something. And they picked him with the 10th pick for a reason.
Yeah.
So they're going to try to give him the ball, try to utilize that. And all it takes is one play. That's all it does.
He's the type of player that you just get the ball and just watch. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, let's see what you can do. You can do whatever. I
could see Toney. I would play him in those deeper leagues, 12-team higher. Maybe have 2 flexes, something like that. And definitely playing Toney because he'll get what? It doesn't matter if you're playing PPR. If it's 2 or 3 yards, it's still a point each time.
Yeah.
So
he reminds me of a lot of like what Percy Harvin did in his first couple of years in the NFL.
It could even do the sweeps, those out routes.
Yeah, like stuff like that Percy Harvin was so good at because it was you give him the ball in open field and see what he can do.
His first step.
So that is my first one. I will guarantee he's probably available in almost every league.
Yep. So my first sleeper is going to be Devonta Smith with the Eagles. Talk about Jalen Hurts being a must-start as a quarterback. I think Devonta Smith is going to be his right-hand man. He's going to be one that's going to have that connection, try to, almost like Toney, maybe Smith is going to run routes, but just give him the ball as quick as possible. Let him make a move. Let him get upfield. And he's also playing the Falcons defense. They gave him the most passing yards last year. So Hurts needs something to rely on, and Devonta Smith is going to be that guy.
So, I think Devonta Smith is definitely, if you're going to play a rookie wide receiver week 1, I think it's definitely him because it's the Eagles' best option as a receiver out there. And the playmaking ability that he has, we saw it at Alabama. It's unreal. So I like him there, especially with playing Atlanta too. With me, my second one is going to be another rookie receiver that kind of is going under the radar, but I think you hear momentum getting talked about him more, and that's Teres Marshall from the Panthers.
Yep, he's actually on my list too.
And I know he's the number 3 guy for them, but I think the Panthers are going to try to spread the ball out a little bit more and create a little more running reins for McCaffrey and kind of take some weight off of what McCaffrey has been doing the last couple of years because he got injured and everything. And he's too special to continue to put that much on him and lose him for a whole season. So I think they're going to spread it out more. And Teres Marshall, I feel like as a slot guy or an outside guy, is just going to be he'll be good. Like he's in the last couple preseason games we watched with Sam Darnold, he's getting around 8 targets. And for a rookie like that, getting time with Moore and Anderson, you don't hear that a lot. So I think he's one that is going to slide in under a lot of people's radars, and you'll see him consistently start growing in the system and putting up more and more points each week. And they're playing the Jets, which, like you said, youngest team in the league by a lot, and they have a lot of young guys in that secondary.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. That's why he made my list as well. With Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore on that team, there's going to be a lot of the focus on that defense.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing against young defense, they're trying to make sure that the big guys don't get those catches. I think Terrance Marshall, you could get sneaky games out of him, especially this week. 6 to 8 targets for sure, and he could honestly win you this week just because of what the production I think he'll put up.
Yeah, and I think he'll have a pretty solid year this year. And I think this first couple of weeks he'll be really good. And why not? If you have an extra flex and you're not sure who, maybe he's a guy you go pick up and be like, you know what, I'll just throw him in there this week and see what he can do. So Terrance Marshall we both had. Then I'll move to my number 3. Then that's Courtland Sutton with the Broncos. With him coming off injury, they said really he hasn't been back to full till about 3 weeks ago. And he said he's just taking a turn for the best. They said he looks like the old Sutton they've seen. And I think with Teddy Bridgewater, you're going to see a more dynamic passing game with Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. And I think with the weaker secondary of Giants, Courtland Sutton might look this week and take back over that number 1 role. Because I know right now it's kind of between him and Jeudy. And I think after this week, Courtland Sutton will be the runaway one with it.
Yeah, that's honestly why I'm also fading Noah Fant as well. That's why he made that list, is because I'm really big on Jerry Jeudy. I'm big on Courtland Sutton. I think they're both with Teddy Bridgewater back there. They're just going to be. I think they'll, instead of taking away, they're going to really complement each other. So one will go get more focused, the other one will just get targets, and they'll kind of go back and forth. I think they complement each other very well. And I think they'll both have big games, so I love the Courtland Sutton sleeper start. Because I think even though he was injured last year, he did all his rehab, like you said, 2 or 3 weeks ago, that he finally got 100%.
Yeah. And
there shouldn't be his injuries should not be bothering him at all, and I think he'll just kind of start from where he left off last time. And so that leads to my number 3. I'm going with Michael Pittman with the Colts. He's projected to be their number 1 wide receiver. I think he will, and he'll show that starting this game. Wentz is back. He's their number 1 quarterback. He's ready. He's ready to go. And I think he just will have that chemistry with Michael Pittman from the beginning. They're also playing not a very good passing defense against the Seahawks, like we mentioned before. And I think this will just help Wentz and Pittman get that confidence playing that bad defense. And I think starting week 1, that's when Pittman takes over and shows why he's going to be that number 1 and could end up being top 15, top 20 wide receiver in the All of Fantasy.
That's what I like Pittman this year, and I think having Wentz back only increases his look as outlook this year in fantasy. And like you said, with the Seahawks, they're probably going to have to score some points, and I do like Pittman. And I think he will be their best, or one of the better receivers on the team, especially with T.Y. Hilton being out at least 3 games. So Pittman is definitely, everybody's pretty high on him this year. I think he showcased some of his ability last year, but he got hurt a little bit too last year. But he definitely has great upside, and his ceiling can be very high this year with Carson Wentz throwing the ball and how they want to do it. And it really depends on what they do with Jonathan Taylor and everything.
And with the T.Y. Hilton injury, I think that just opens up the door more for Pittman. And
that's what. So I'm going to go with my number 4, then, which is a counter to your Michael Pittman, and that's Paris Campbell. To me, I think Paris Campbell, coming out of college, was was super freak athlete, fast, could catch, can run, and he could take a drag route 80 yards for a touchdown, outrun anybody. The only thing, his biggest knock in the last 3 years has been injuries. Mm-hmm. He can't stay healthy. I did see that he had an Achilles issue the other day, so he didn't practice or he was limited. But now today he practiced in full, so he's fine. I think it was just more of a precautionary thing. Maybe just someone was tweaking him and he just wanted to sit out and rest it. But I think he's a guy that you need to watch out for this year. A lot of people have kind of forgot about him because of the injuries, but I think with Carson Wentz, it'll be a guy that you can get the ball out to quickly that can turn small plays into large plays. And I just think he's a great route runner, and he's just someone I think you need to watch out for. And I think he can, with the Seahawks, if the Seahawks offense just makes the Colts defense look bad, they're going to have to throw the ball, and I think Paris Campbell's going to be largely involved in that. So, to me, I think Paris Campbell he could easily sneak into being the Colts' best option this year, but it all depends if he's healthy. And this week, I would take that risk on him if I have two flexes and just throw him in there and just see what he can do.
Especially against the Seahawks, I like that matchup. Campbell and Pittman, I think they both can actually have great weeks this week, especially against the Seahawks defense. Wentz just wants to kind of prove that he's on that prove it year.
Yeah.
And so he's going to throw the ball a lot. He'll have those running backs to throw to, and he also have Campbell and Pittman to throw to. So he has everyone all around the field. So I can definitely see Campbell and Pittman both getting that start as a sleeper.
Yep. So who's your number 4 then?
Number 4, this might be a little controversy, but I went with A.J. Green. And because I went with A.J. Green is because the Cardinals were playing the Titans defense. The Titans defense gave up the 4th most receiving yards and the 2nd most receiving touchdowns. And so I think we both agree this is going to be a shootout for this game.
Yeah, I agree. I would think
so. Hopkins can't make all the catches. He's going to be very targeted on that Titans defense. So you need someone to back up. I know you have Christian Kirk on there and AJ Green. I just think this is the one where you need that deep flex. You're in those deeper leagues. You need two flex, something like that. I think AJ Green can sneak in there and get you a 10 to 15 point game.
That's what he could easily be, a red zone dependent kind of guy. And I mean, take it how you leave. If you're in a deep league and that's your best option, you're gonna take that risk to get 12 points. So I don't especially against the Titans. If all their focus is on Hopkins, that leaves one-on-one matchups with a guy like AJ Green, who still, has dropped a lot from what he was. But at one point in the league, he was one of the top 5 receivers. And I think injuries and being on a bad team with the Bengals has kind of made his career go down. But like last year, he had a lot of targets, and it was just uncatchable balls, and they just miss them. So I think we'll see an incline, especially with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. He's definitely someone to watch out for, especially he's never had an opposite guy like DeAndre Hopkins.
No, he's never played with anyone like that. Like I said, I do believe he's not going to be a lot of like that deep ball anymore, because he at one point last year was leading the league in deep ball passes.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be using more him in the red zone, and the word out of camp is he looks great, and so I like to see. Hopefully, AJ Green has that bounce back year, and he's in a great offense. So I think it's going to be a great start for him against a very bad defense.
Yeah,
passing
defense. And I'd be interested to see what he does, especially kind of like a rebirth for him. He's finally out of Cincy, and for the first time, probably has a solid quarterback getting the ball, and he has a number 1 outside of him. So I'd be interested to see, and I'm going to keep close eye to see what AJ Green looks like this first week, especially in that offense. But for me, my last sleeper for this is Zach Wilson for the Jets. And I think with him, he's going to be the best performing rookie quarterback, especially with Mac Jones. I think he's going to perform the best, and I think he's going to rely heavily on guys like
Corey Davis.
And to me, what makes a good quarterback is your rookie years where you start out with the top, and that's Robert Saleh. I don't think they're going to put Zach Wilson in a bad situation to set him up to fail and just throw the ball around, have pick after pick after pick. I expect him to play smart, use the 3 running backs, play action, and then kind of let him loose and see what he can do. So for me, I think Zach Wilson can easily finish with 20-plus points this week, and he'll surprise a lot of people with what he can do. If I have one of my leagues, I have Big Ben and then him. I think I'm going to start Zach Wilson just because the upside could be so much greater. Mm-hmm. So I like Zach Wilson to slide in and be a top. He'll eventually, I think, be a top 10 quarterback this year. So I like Zach Wilson as my last sleeper.
Yeah, like we said, I think we said earlier, the Panthers and Jets are going to be Panthers are going to be scoring a lot of points because of their defense, so they need to catch up.
Yeah.
So they can pass the ball. I think that's when we will see for sure how Zach Wilson is, and I expect really good things from him. I think he's a very good quarterback. He was a number 2 pick, so I think this could be a great start for him. Put a good foot forward of coming into the league, and against the Panthers defense that isn't, I would say they're average. I wouldn't say they're the best. They're not the worst.
They're not great.
And I think, like I said, they'll be having to kind of keep up, and Zach Wilson getting 20 points is not anything crazy. So you went with the number 2 pick in the draft. I'm actually going with the number 1 pick in the draft with my last pick, and I'm going with Trevor Lawrence. Hasn't had a lot of talk because there hasn't been a quarterback controversy on his team. Talking about Mac Jones, talking about Justin Fields. Zach Wilson, just because he's in New York, being a lot of talk. Trevor Lawrence, I feel like, has gone under the radar a little bit.
And there's no expectation there.
No, because
people know they're not going to be.
Everyone knows they're going to be bad.
Yeah.
And so him being number 1 pick and to start, he's playing the Texans defense.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a great game for him to at least start off with that. And I think he's going to be just a confidence booster is what we're really going to see Trevor Lawrence doing. Same as Zach Wilson. I think Trevor Lawrence gets in that 20-point range usually against that bad of a defense.
And like you said, especially against who they're playing, and what they might try to do a little bit more because if they're playing such a bad team, we'll definitely see it grow. So I like Trevor Lawrence, too, to kind of sneak in and be maybe he outperforms Zach Wilson this week because of who they're playing. Mm-hmm. So top 5 sleepers for me are Kadarius Toney with the Giants, Teres Marshall with the Panthers, Cortland Sutton with the Broncos, Zach Wilson with the Jets, and then Paris Campbell with the Colts.
I got Devonta Smith with the Eagles, Terrance Marshall with the Panthers, Michael Pittman with the Colts, AJ Green with the Cardinals, and Trevor Lawrence with the Jaguars.
And to round out the episode, we are doing we just put out a little pick'em every Sunday, so this will come out Saturday, and then the next morning, Sunday morning, we'll release the little pick'em episode. So it's like a 20-minute episode over all our what we think is going to happen that week. We will go over our favorites, our underdogs, and then our lock. But we forgot to do the props on that.
Yep. So
let's go ahead and do the props here. So my first prop that I have that I think is a good one is Deontay Johnson over 5.5 receptions against the Bills. It's just they're going to have to throw the ball. Deontay Johnson was 10 games plus with 10 or more targets. So it's just like he's going to get a starting share. And then my second prop, which to me this one kind of surprised me, was T.J. Hawkinson over 4.5 receptions. Especially with the Lions. I know that's a lot for tight ends, but to me that's just.
I think I almost see T.J. Hawkinson as a wide receiver, especially on that team of the targets and catches he's going to get. It's not going to be your normal tight end on those teams.
So those are the 2 props that I had this week. Do you have any props?
Yep, my first prop is Stefan Diggs over 6.5 receptions. Last year, Stefan Diggs was 14-1 on the over of his receptions. So I think he just starts over again. The Bills against the Steelers. I think
it's Josh Allen's safety blanket.
Safety blanket. Brown is gone for the wide receivers. They picked up
Emmanuel
Sanders, and I just don't think Emmanuel Sanders is going to do a whole lot for them. I think Diggs will get his catches and just kind of take over from what we did last year. So I like that over. Second prop is Lamar Jackson. Just touchdown. Any time at plus 150. I think losing all those running backs, they're not going to have a running back they're going to consistently go to this game, so they're going to look to score the touchdown in different ways and just do what they used to do, actually, and get Lamar Jackson will get into the end zone, I think.
A little good prop of that, too, would be just first touchdown score being Lamar.
Yeah, I was at 10-1 with first, so it's actually a good one. Also looking even at, I don't know what the odds are, at 2 touchdowns. for Lamar Jackson just because of those rushing.
What he's going to do on his feet, yeah.
Yep.
And is that all you have for your...
Yep.
Okay, so that'll wrap up our starts, fades, and sleeper picks for this week. This will come out on Saturday, so after you listen to it Sunday morning, we're going to release our little Pick'em podcast thing. It's just 20 minutes going over all the games, and then if we don't bet every game, but if we were to bet, this is our picks for each game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we give you locks, favorites, and dogs for each week that we think, and then to follow along with that, we'll have it on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and everything. So just go find those pages. But if you haven't, go follow. It's all at Fantasy Football Futures. You can find it there. And then just let us know maybe your picks and everything. But thanks for listening. This is Fantasy Football Futures. Appreciate all the support. Thanks, guys.
See you.